Broadcasting Studio 24 in California, the entertainment capital of the world, featuring Dr. Dwight Rogers and Tony G. It's the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. And now, your host, Jeremy Brooks.
We are live from Brooks Broadcasting Studio 24. This is the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. Welcome to the show tonight. During this week, it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we're going to be talking about something a little bit more than teacher appreciation. We're going to dive into the realities of teaching in America. We're going to be looking at public perception versus, again, the realities in the classroom. Civic dialogue and free speech. We're going to tackle that on this show tonight. Communication in an increasingly divided culture, and why teachers continue to be among the most important voices shaping our communities and our future. Joining us tonight, Paul Brumbaugh. He is a writer, producer, stand-up comedian, improv performer, actor, host, interviewer, and longtime Bay Area media personality. He has one of my favorite shows. Paul's also a longtime host and producer of the Edge of Insanity podcast. You have to check it out if you have not seen it yet. It's a lot of fun. He's worked extensively in live performance, podcasting, production, community-based creative projects throughout San Francisco and the San Francisco Bay Area. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you for having me back, guys. Good to see you all. Good seeing you as well.
Going to be a lot of fun tonight. And of course, we've got the one, the only, Dr. Dwight Kofi Rogers.
Hey. Again, I apologize about not being here last week. I'm so happy to be back. Jeremy, this is our last show, huh?
This is the last one.
Hey, our last show. We're going to make this show great. Just stay tuned. Buckle up. Go get something nice to drink. We got our nice cups here. Our Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks cups. We're going to have a great show, so stay tuned.
Yes, and real quick, a little bit about Dr. Rogers. He's our senior education contributor here on the show. He's a district leader, author of the book, Change the Narrative, Don't Let the Narrative Change You. We've got a copy right back there. You got to pick up a copy of that fabulous book. And then also, he was recently recognized as the Administrator of the Year.
Yeah, just feeling appreciated. We talked about appreciation today on today's show. I felt so appreciated to be acknowledged by a group of educators. And so it feels good to be able to have that system of reciprocity where you can give it back. So I'm so happy and so grateful. I'm ready for the show.
All right, excellent. We are too. And then, of course, we've got tonight, he is Dan Moulthrop. He's a CEO of the City Club of Cleveland, one of the nation's oldest and most respected free speech forums. Dan is also a former public radio host and journalist. He's also co-author of the New York #1 Times best-selling book, Teachers Have It Easy, alongside Nimitiv Calgary and Dave Eggers. The book became part of a national conversation on the realities facing educators in America, appearing on best-selling lists, major national media outlets, and it later helped to inspire a documentary, American Teacher, narrated by the actor Matt Damon and directed by Academy Award-winning filmmaker Vanessa Roth. Dan has also served as a teacher, worked extensively in journalism and civic engagement, continues to lead national conversations around free speech, communication, democracy, and education, also public discourse. Dan, welcome to the show tonight. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I wish I was actually there, but it's great to join you.
Awesome. And Dan is joining us tonight all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. So
that's right.
Very happy to.
The Cavs are playing tonight. They're playing right now. And did you know that they once beat the Warriors when the Warriors had a 3-1 lead?
Oh,
you know that?
I did not know that.
I did.
Yeah, I know you did. I know you did, Dwight.
Hey, you know what? We can't go any. Do you see what we have here? We have someone zooming in. So, hey, Dr. Brooks.
Yes.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. So one of the great things, too, Dan, real fast, I hear that's where the Music Hall of Fame is. Is that correct?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yep. Yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is right there. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's a wonderful, wonderful institution. Lots of great things about Cleveland, Ohio. And I should explain too, the City Club of Cleveland for Californians is very similar to the Commonwealth Club of California. If you know the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco.
Well, yeah, and I can't wait to talk about free speech tonight, and especially given sort of the climate that we're in. So it's going to be a great show, and thank you for all the work that you do, of course, as well, and of course the book you wrote and all of your activism and everything you've done throughout your career. You've also been a teacher, isn't that correct?
That's right. Yeah, it was the greatest job. I loved it. I taught English in California, in San Lorenzo, California.
Okay.
At San Lorenzo High School.
Nice. How long ago was that?
That would have been, that was like the late 90s, early 2000s. And before I taught there, I taught in the county jail in San Francisco.
Nice. So you have a lot of experience. Great.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
have some. My wife has a lot of experience. She is she and I met in the English department at San Lorenzo.
Oh, that's
Very
awesome.
nice. Very nice. Okay. Looking forward to the conversation.
And my wife is also, she was an English teacher before getting into administration. And by the way, I want to apologize because I did send you an email and I saw some typos in it. My wife saw it afterwards and I thought, oh my goodness, I just sent this to a former English teacher. And now my wife saw the email and she, I was in big trouble.
Well, you did see he did return it back. You only got a B+.
That's right.
Yeah,
So I just want to let you know,
That's
don't
right.
feel bad. There's still a little smiley face there, so it's fine.
I printed it out, took the red pen to it, and I kept it to myself.
Oh, that's
People
fun.
really do that. Sometimes you have conversations with just people who are not educators,
Yeah.
and then they expect you to send a text message with no mistakes in it or anything.
My wife, she is notorious. And she makes sense of things in a very precise way, the correct way, the way it's supposed to be. And, it's interesting. I don't work like that. I'm a little bit more loose when it comes to grammar and spelling and
Absolutely.
punctuation. And, but yeah, hey, it's good to have our English teachers out there who keep us on track, right?
Absolutely.
You bet.
All right. So before we begin, we want to thank our 1.5 million viewers in 47 plus countries around the world who have supported the show. If you're viewing the show tonight at home, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you have questions for anybody on the panel, we would love to answer those over the air. Just drop a comment. And again, in our control room, the comments are monitored and they'll let us know. And we will try to get those questions and comments addressed. Before we dive in tonight, I kind of want to do a quick check-in, but I also want to mention, I want to remind you to check out our live episode from this Saturday. We had the star of Toy Story, Andy. It was John Morris, and he played in the Toy Story franchise. He was also in The Nightmare Before Christmas. He played Santa Boy. And so it was a lot of fun having him on, a great episode. So make sure to check that out if you haven't seen it yet. And we wanted to do that episode ahead of the Toy Story movie coming out in theaters next month. All right, again, quick check-in for our panel tonight. Paul, how's it going since we've last had you on the show?
I'm going through caretaker fatigue. It will probably come out through this episode. So I take care of everybody in my life other than me. So watch out. That's what I'm dealing with. So
Okay.
that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Hey,
right, guys.
that happens, right? It definitely does. And we're glad you're here tonight. And hopefully this could be like a little bit of self-care for you.
Well, I think so. And I think I'm in the right support group, right? Because
Yes.
do you guys have that kind of symptom going on too, as being caretakers, being
Absolutely.
teachers and educators?
Yeah,
that kind of happens. Sometimes you got to keep your finger on your pulse.
Absolutely.
Make
right.
sure things are going. So
And this, I don't know, Dr. Rogers, but this for me, it's kind of like our night to kind of unwind and right?
This is my therapeutic time,
Exactly.
because just like you going to need some help, I'm going to need some help too, because, this is the season of change. There's a lot of things going on in my life right now. And I'm telling you, when we come back, it's going to be a lot of things different. I cannot wait to share. So stay tuned when
Yeah.
you come back for next season.
All right.
all right.
Awesome, Dr. Rogers. And then Dan, again, thanks again for joining us from Cleveland tonight. How are things going? Again, we talked a little bit about sports in Cleveland, but how are things going in your world?
Things are good. I mean, just to be totally transparent, we hosted Secretary Robert F. Kennedy at the City Club tonight.
Okay.
So it's, it's 6:30 where you guys are, 9:30 here. And so that was like kind of a big deal. We had a packed house. We had just as many protesters outside. And so it was definitely like a good moment for democracy and free speech, but kind of a challenging moment as well. So that's kind of the frame of mind I'm coming from, but delighted to be here with you guys.
Wow. Thank you. Especially with such a busy night. I did see that actually on your website, and what an amazing opportunity to have, RFK Jr. come out tonight to speak.
Yeah.
And glad to hear that it was well attended and on outside and inside.
Exactly.
All righty. Well, we are going to begin tonight, and the first part of our show, this next segment, we're calling it the reality of teaching in America. So tonight I want to start with something I think that many teachers across America feel right now, because every year we have Teacher Appreciation Week and we have the celebrations sort of rolling in. But there's the thank you messages, which we appreciate. There's the communities who recognize teachers. People talk about the important impact education is having. But behind the appreciation, many teachers are exhausted and financially strained, emotionally overwhelmed, and also questioning whether the profession's still sustainable long term. And the truth is, the conversation, it's not something that's new, right? Nearly 20 years ago, Dan, he co-authored Teachers Have It Easy, an incredible book. Make sure to check it out if you haven't seen it yet. And it sort of challenged America's understanding of the teaching profession, and it also exposed many of the realities educators were facing at that time. The book later helped inspire the documentary American Teacher, narrated by Matt Damon. But Dan, I want to start with you tonight. I want to start right here. When you were working on Teachers Have It Easy, what first made you realize that this was a story that America needed to hear?
So the idea of the book started with actually Dave Eggers and Nineveh Caligari. And I think you guys know Dave. He, back 26 years ago or so, he wrote a book called A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius, and that was his breakout book. And he'd also been a journalist. He had a magazine called Might back in the 90s, and has done a number of really incredible things. And since, after writing Heartbreaking Work, he went on to write his movie and all this stuff. Anyway, Dave created 826 Valencia in San Francisco, and Nineveh was the executive director of 826 Valencia when it first started, became the executive director of 826 National. And the book starts with them. I was a teacher at the time, just doing my teaching thing with my side hustle. I worked for a catering company on weekends and nights. Like every teacher has a side hustle. And they brought the idea to me, like, hey, we need to do a book. We want to do a book about teacher pay, about this crazy national policy we have of underpaying American educators and just hoping that it works out okay for democracy and works out okay for the economy, which it's not for either. And I was taken by the idea, and it came. They brought the idea to me at a time when I was transitioning away from the classroom into a career in journalism. So it was a great opportunity. Take a look at teachers' lives. There's so much that people do not see and do not understand. Everybody thinks they understand teachers and what it takes to teach because they were in a classroom. They spent like 18 years in a classroom, right? So how hard could it be? It looks pretty cush. And the reality is like, if you show up in the morning, 7:00, get your classroom ready for the 8:00 arrival, and then the kids start coming in, and you don't actually get to stop and go to the bathroom until 1 PM.
Yeah.
Like you get you're eating lunch at like 10:40 in the morning, and you only have 20 minutes. And if you're an English teacher or a history teacher, and like you have, and Jeremy, I know you've taught history, so you know this, right? You send, like, say you have 90 kids that you're responsible for. You're a full-time teacher, maybe on a block schedule, 30 kids each class, you've got 90 kids. And they turn in an essay on a Thursday. And then you have 90 essays to grade.
Yeah.
And if you are going to give each of those essays even 10 minutes of your attention, that's insane, right? That's 15 hours of your weekend. Like, and I don't think people really realize that. And that's only if you give those things 10 minutes. If you were actually giving them like real attention, you're spending a lot more time than that. And I think people generally do not realize that that's the reality. And that the pay that teachers are signing up for is pay that most college graduates would not find acceptable. And so to supplement that low pay, when 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I was teaching, I was working for a catering company on the weekends. Today, they're, driving Lyft and Uber. They're working in an Amazon warehouse wherever they can. And it's really a problem. It's a terrible, terrible national policy.
Yeah, that's a great point you made, and I agree with you with all of those things because, when you don't spend time in today's classroom, you don't understand a lot of those new nuances that come up every day. So why do you think there's historically been such a disconnect between public perception and the actual realities teachers face? Why do you think there's where's the problem at? Where do you see the gaps?
Because people don't spend time in classrooms. Legislators don't spend time in classrooms. Most parents do not spend time in classrooms. And kids, and people are relying on their own experience as teenagers or whatever, which is the last thing, the last classroom they remember being in. But, you take, the people who are setting education policy today are, primarily state legislators, and they're not visiting classrooms very often. Or if they are, it's like this big hullabaloo, but they're not seeing reality. And if you asked any of them to, go home, prepare a lesson plan to deliver tomorrow, they wouldn't last 15 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, teaching is hard. It is great. And when you know how to do it, it is so much fun. There were times when I was teaching when I was like, I cannot believe I get to do this and I get paid. But it is hard work.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to jump in on this and we'll let you finish your point. The other thing too, Dan, and I worked in the public policy space a little bit too. So it is hard definitely to get those legislative members to come out to visit. And I used to do it all the time. I'd be on a Zoom call or I'd be at the Capitol and I'd say, hey, could you just come on out? We want to visit you and show you the great stuff happening. But what I would also say is, to be honest, a lot of times it's those legislative staffers who are really working on the policy behind the scenes and informing the member of the legislature, hey, I met with this constituency group or, this special interest. And it's interesting because some of these staffers, I mean, they're pretty young. They're in college or they're fresh out of college. And it seems like, some of these young folks are behind the scenes a lot of times helping to come up with the policy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't mean to slam state legislators and state level legislators or legislatures. There are some who are doing some incredible work in this vein right now. Like in California, there's a bill to bring a 50% raise across the state to teachers, which is hugely important given the cost of living in your state. I do want to put in a plug to invite all of you to consider moving to Cleveland, Ohio, where we have 4 seasons, they're lovely, and you can afford to live here, even on a teacher's salary. But there's places, there are things happening around the country right now, but it's mostly at the level of bills being introduced, not necessarily bills being, voted through and executed.
And real quick, nearly 20 years later, Dan, what parts of the book still feel relevant today?
That second job thing, the second job thing feels so relevant because the cost of living is so high and you, everywhere you go, it's mostly a housing problem and now it's a gas problem too. But, if you're living on a teacher's salary, it's really hard to make that work. I have 3 kids. My my wife and I were both teachers in California. We moved back to Cleveland, and she was teaching for a while. I was working in journalism for a while. Now we're both running nonprofit organizations. I can't imagine us still functioning as raising our children while teaching and surviving on that salary. It was impossible to think about, particularly in California.
Yeah.
What is the average shelf life of an educator nowadays? I guess the shelf life is probably not the right term I want to use.
Well,
I mean, it's a labor of love, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you're, regardless if you're a single educator in a home, you're a single person, and you're trying to pay bills and everything, what's the churn rate? I mean, is it like?
Well, I'll tell you real quick. So for new teachers, for beginning teachers, in the first 5 years, it's like 50% turnover rate.
Wow.
So it's around 50%. And if you survive the first 5 years, then it gets a little bit better.
And I would think that's only gotten worse throughout the years because, I'm 59 now, and I still remember my teachers buying supplies when they shouldn't have bought them.
Right. And when I was in education in the beginning, both of you mentioned, it was rough, right? It was rough because I was younger and I was raising kids and had a family and still trying to make it on a lower salary. So like you said, Jeremy, if you can survive those initial years, those first 5-6 years, and then it's crazy. You get more salary, your kids get older and they leave. And so it changes, right? So here it is, get more money, less responsibilities, but how do you get to that point, right? How do you survive that, especially in California with inflation rates and everything else going through the roof, and the respect level that kids, and teachers have, looking globally, when you go to other countries, other cultures, they have a different level of respect when it comes to teachers and student relationships. And so you mentioned, it's hard, but the burnout is high because of that.
There's that caregiver burnout again. So
that's so true. That is so true. When you talk about those first 5 years too, you're still developing as a professional in those first 5 years. And I think Dwight, you probably know this better than I do because I left after 5 years. But you become a exceptionally better teacher, an algorithmically better teacher, logarithmically better teacher. By the time you're at 10 years or 15 years. And so we've created a system where we're almost intentionally not getting people, not really fully developing people into the best teacher versions of themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You think about that. And then imagine you're running a business and your turnover is 50% every 5 years. That's not sustainable at all for any enterprise. It's terrible at a McDonald's, and that happens a lot at a McDonald's, but it's it runs so much better if you have consistent, employees that stick around. But something as complex as a whole education system.
Right. Because we're talking human capital, right? So we're talking human capital, and like we was just discussing, you should take care of people who take care of people.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem as if our country really has wrapped their brain around, that concept of our children need people who are taken care of. Because if you put a teacher and educator in front of kids who are burnt out, tired, then how are they going to deliver the best services? How are they going to be able to show up authentically themselves? So so you have those crafty teachers who are savvy enough to navigate their way through, but they're becoming more and more of the exception and not the norm. And then, don't get me to talk about teachers unions where you get locked in, and I'm not dogging unions. I'm not doing that, but you get into a union and then teachers who are not performing well, it becomes a task to get them out or to do something with them. And so our kids suffer.
Yeah. Nineveh, our co-author on this book, who couldn't be here tonight, which is the reason I'm here tonight, she likes to say, great teachers need more great colleagues.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Love that.
And I think it's such a great way to say it. But, right now, she was sharing some stats with me. Just listen to some of this stuff. 20% of teachers are satisfied with their work.
Yeah.
Just 1 in 5 teachers
rough.
feel satisfied.
So 80% are dissatisfied, right? We look at the opposite
That's
end of
right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you look at what's going on with like college graduates. College kids, there are 4%. If you ask college kids, would they say yes to a teaching job right now, or college graduates? 4% would say yes. But if you say, what if you could teach and make over $100,000? That becomes 60%.
Interesting. Wow. Wow.
Right.
So salary is a big part of it.
Again, we live in California, and the realities are, like, for example, I was just talking to Jeremy earlier, whatever, about living in in different parts of California, and it's so expensive that if you live in a section of the city where you can actually afford to live and then commute, now you have to deal with traffic. So you're losing quality time as far as sleep is concerned because you're caught. So it becomes decision-making time on what you do. And so, like you mentioned, how can you make a good decision if you know you're not going to be paid a lot of money going into that profession? And remember, education years ago was such that you didn't have all of these complexities that's involved in teaching. And now all of these tech jobs and everything else and technology, that they have different options to go into. So what's the pull to be an educator? So that's why I feel like when you find great leaders who inspire people to be there, and you have that labor of love, you go to that and you stay there, because it becomes an anomaly at this point to find a place where you can actually go, you can see yourself, and you can really make effective change with the little people that you're working with.
Can I ask you guys, can we do something real quick? Can you guys each think of the teacher who made the difference in your life?
Okay. That was quick.
Yeah.
Mine was quick too.
You guys, I can't point at you, so I can't tell who to go first. Paul, you go first. Who was yours?
For the teacher's name, I'll give you the teacher's name. It was Mr. Ball. And Mr. Ball was, he wasn't even my teacher. He was another 6th grade teacher that we would all go to his room at recess or lunch, or even when there was different things going on with different classes, we always wanted to go over there and go to Mr. Ball's room because he made things fun. And that's really kind of what stuck through, me being an educator through comedy is because that's the ones that had made it stick the most with me. Otherwise, I was just tuned out. I was the daydreamer in class. I was the class clown. And so if you could keep my attention, man, I was a sponge. And now it's those kind of people that really kind of inspire me.
Right.
Those are the ones that really stick with me. So it's people like probably Mr. Ball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Kofi, what about you?
It wasn't a teacher. I had a teacher, and I named it in my book. His name was Mr. Goddard. I'm going to call him out because he would always talk to me disrespectfully, knowing that I was being picked on and bullied in class, and it stuck with me. I'm 57 years old, and I'm thinking about when I was in middle school, this teacher really made me feel horrible, right? And so, but there was a teacher, her name was Mrs. English, and she was my speech therapy instructor, and she was the one who inspired me and gave me a belief that, hey, you know what, it's going to be okay. But I didn't have a teacher. I had a speech therapist that really poured into me and gave me some tools and gave me hope that it's going to be okay. Because otherwise, all of my teachers, I'm not going to say they were bad. I think they were just blind to seeing me.
That's amazing. What about you, Jeremy?
And gosh, it's hard to pick. Miss Wofford, Miss Crone. I had so many amazing, incredible teachers. I felt I was pretty fortunate. Honestly, growing up, I got to go to a good school, and that had a huge impact on me.
Absolutely.
And that made a difference. I would say, and the thing about Miss Crone, she gave me opportunities that other teachers hadn't gave me before. And she was just incredibly supportive. And, and then, of course, Miss Wofford, she actually came to our Christmas party.
Okay, I remember her.
The Brooks Broadcasting Christmas party. And
I took her gift, I think.
Sixth grade. Did you take her gift?
I took her gift. We had a gift exchange. I took her gift.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
she's
great.
amazing.
Mine was Mr. Hill. He was, and he he was never actually my teacher. This is high school, but he was my advisor. We all had like teacher advisors or whatever. And he left our school like after, the year that was going to be my senior year. He left to go to another school. And I was so mad because I was going to take his class finally. And, but he was just amazing. And I think he's the reason I became an English teacher later. And that was why I wanted to ask you guys, because I think those teachers who Mr. Hill did not seem burnt out to me ever. Right. And the way you describe Mrs. English and Mr. Ball, they were the people you wanted to be around. Right. The people who made you feel good. And if four or five teachers that our young people are encountering are burnt out and not satisfied with their job, they're not providing that inspiration, right? They're not showing love to the students that are in their lives. And those students are, we need some of those students to grow up and be like, I love that. I want to be that. I want to be that for other kids. I want to be a teacher. And I'm so afraid that that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And also, real quick, we have comments rolling in, and there's a comment, shout out to Mr. Brown, teacher out there. So leave in the chat, if you're following us live, leave a comment. Let us know which teachers you appreciate, and let us know what school was it, and the teacher's name, and we'll share those out over the air. Thank you, Dan, for that question. That was awesome. I also just kind of want to open it up to a little bit of a cross-panel discussion here too. If teachers are among the most important professions in society, right? We think that they are. Why does it feel like they're among the least supported? Because as we've kind of established, as Dan had shared, stories, messages too, the statistics there. And as we talked about, it seems like our educators, just maybe aren't necessarily appreciated as much as we, would hope that they would be. So what do we think the cause is? What's going on there?
Part of it, I think, is social challenges. You were just talking about if it was $100,000 a year, 60% would want to be teachers. If you go back probably 40 years, I don't think that those numbers, well, of course they would want the money, but I guess it was more for a love of the game, right? It was because a teacher inspired you, and you want to pay it forward. You got inspired. Now you want to be able to carry that torch forward, right? So I think it's the values of maybe this. I start to sound old and crass. I don't want to say those young kids nowadays, but you know what I'm saying? It's the value system. I think it's a money thing.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And it looks like we lost Dan. We're going to try to get him back as soon as we can.
I'm back.
Yeah, he's back. All right.
He just couldn't listen to Paul's response to that any longer.
I got fed up for a second there. I'm like, no, I have no idea what the question is, but my internet just dropped out.
Well,
but.
Dan, you had us in a huge panic over here, but we're okay now. Good to see you. What we were talking about is just kind of, we noticed that, again, there's this disconnect. We say we appreciate teachers, and kind of open it up to the panel. We say we appreciate teachers, but, does the data really reflect that? And, thank you for sharing that, Paul, that, again, there is a disconnect, right? And you want to continue on? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying when we lost you there for a minute, I think it's maybe the core values of this generation in society. They're more money focused. It's less inspired by, we all came up with an instant story about what teacher inspired us to be where we're sitting today. I wonder how many kids you can ask that, even at a high school age. Younger, of course, the less experience with it.
I think you're being a curmudgeon. I think
good. That's what I wanted to hear. I was saying I was wondering if I was starting to be an old man. There you go.
No, there are still plenty of kids these days who love teachers, who love the teachers in their lives, and they're learning and they're doing great things. We do some stuff at the City Club where we've got a youth forum council that it has high school kids from across the region who come together with other high school kids to produce forums, panel conversations, interviews, things like that, in-person events for other high school students and a general audience as well. And these kids are so engaged and so motivated, and you can tell they have great teachers. You can tell.
Right.
And and they show up with their teachers at City Club forums, and we have like a high school debate championship as well. And like, you can tell, like, these kids, there are plenty of kids in this generation who are doing great things and love their teachers.
Well, and Dan, where do you think that disconnect is, though? Between the data we shared and
what you're seeing.
Yeah. I think there's no doubt there are a lot of public education systems that are failing.
Right.
There are great teachers everywhere, but not enough of them, and they're not supported by enough great communities and other great colleagues and all of that. And they're under so much stress right now. And schools are becoming like just really, they're very different places. Like it's really, they're so complex.
Yeah.
And then you layer onto that like metal detectors, and there's once every month I'm getting a notification that there's some shelter in place order at my son's high school. Like, why is that happening? Why? What? I mean, it's hard. Like the whole thing is just it's very challenging today.
Well,
and I think people then like take that discomfort that they feel about the public education system and they direct it at their kid's teacher.
Absolutely.
Well, Dan, I want to let Dr. Rogers answer this real quick too, and then we got to move on to segment 3, because we have you here on the show tonight, and you've got this incredible forum, free speech, civic dialogue, Communication America. I want to talk about that too, especially as it relates to education, but I want to give Dr. Rogers a chance to answer that question too before we move on. So, Dr. Rogers, what do you think? Where's the disconnect? What's going on?
I think it's a combination of what everyone said in the room, because teachers are not the issue or the problem, because my experience has been that so many teachers are really working hard to provide quality services, but systemically we have societal, miscues that shape thoughts around education. Our country has really taken a look at education and not prioritized it.
Right.
For example, we talk about, and when you put together, LCAP, or you put together a SIPSA or something like that, you say, well, you put your money where you think is important. Okay, well then as a country, are we putting the money where we think it's important? Are we paying teachers, educators, the money that they should be earning, because if they're taking care of kids? And so when you look at, and I'm not knocking athletes or anything like that, but when you have people in show business and things of that nature, influencers and all of those things making all of this money, and you see a teacher's salary, you kind of look at that and say, well, how do I respect that in this country, knowing that money and capitalism is what drives this country? And so teachers have this love and this passion of doing the work, but as far as being compensated for that, I think that's where the disconnect is, and so people don't respect it. And then the other thing is, there's so much trauma that's pushed into the schools where it becomes a catch-all, where everybody has to kind of fix everything. Yep. And how do you fix all of these things with less resources and less tools? And so people get frustrated. I think you mentioned it earlier. You said that, people dump on the teachers because of problems. Yeah, they take it there because they don't know where else to take it. And so teachers get the brunt of that pain that they're experiencing.
And I've even seen some legislation too where it's like, there's more and more asked of educators in schools. And it's like, wow, you're going to ask schools to do that additional thing too. And it can be a huge burden, as you mentioned.
Right.
But and it's not just teachers, the administrators see it too.
Educators,
district office, So we do got to move on though real quick. Our next segment 3, we're talking about free speech, civic dialogue, and communication in America, especially as it connects to the classroom, because we're seeing what sort of plays out in society, at sort of a micro level in the classroom too, and in our schools as well. So we're talking about the realities teachers face, the pressure surrounding education, and growing disconnect between expectations and support. But there's another layer to all of this, and it's something that extends far beyond schools. How people talk to one another, how people disagree. how people process information, whether we're losing the ability to genuinely listen. And schools are increasingly becoming the center of many of those conversations too, especially college campuses. I mean, they've always sort of been, but we're seeing that especially today, some of the division in higher ed. And one of the reasons, again, I wanted tonight's conversation to go beyond teacher appreciation alone is because, you know, teachers, they're not just educators anymore. As Dr. Rogers was even saying, in many ways, you know, their schools are navigating some of the political tension, the social division, cultural conflict, and rapidly changing expectations around speech and communication. And so, again, Dan, you know, you lead the City Club of Cleveland, one of America's oldest institutions dedicated to free speech and civic dialogue. Again, we appreciate, you know, you leading that incredible and amazing work there. But you know, when you look at the current state of communication in America today, what concerns you most?
Okay. I'll keep this brief, but I mean, like I can talk for hours about this stuff. I'm concerned about there's some real threats to free speech that are coming from both, you could say, from inside the house and outside the house, you know, from above, from from our federal government, but also from our own inability to tolerate dissent from one another. That's compounded by a loneliness epidemic that is really, it's very real and it's very serious. There are, 20, 25 years ago, Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General, did this study. And 20, 25 years ago, young people were spending on average up to 150 minutes a day with their friends. And the average now is 20 minutes a day with their friends.
Unless their friend's name is TikTok. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud again?
That's what they're doing instead, which gives them the false belief that they've spent time socializing, but they haven't really. It's like it's really scary. And so they're forgetting how to talk to each other, how to hang out with each other, how to have friendly disagreements about whatever, how to get into deep conversations.
Right.
And so all of those things, I think, are real challenges for our culture, for democracy, and for humanity, actually.
I was reading a survey or something the other day. They were talking about the average male hasn't asked a female out on a date until they're like 28 years old or something like that now.
Seriously?
Even like school dances, there's like more people that are like wallflowers than we've ever had before.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as we're kind of becoming more of a digital sort of society,
right?
We are losing the
Human connection.
Interpersonal skills, the communication skills, the connection. And, we got to really work on that. And again, what's the solution? What's the fix? But I think also kind of going back to, again, the free speech sort of part of it. I think as we're online and we're on our social media, we're kind of in our own silos, right? I think, Dan, I think mentioned something like that before. I think there was a magazine interview with you where you said something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't remember, but I'm sure it sounds like something I'd say. It's so, what do we do about it? I think we lean in and we create more opportunities to be with one another in human fellowship. The thing that we do at the City Club, when I first got there 13, 14 years ago, there were a bunch of people who were like, it's 5 years from now, this will all be online. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what we have here. We bring people together every week for a shared experience and a shared encounter with ideas and an opportunity to engage with somebody about their passion. Like, that's magic. And that's superhuman. That's like what it means to be human. What you all are doing, Paul, I think you said, I think all of you basically said this is your therapy, right? The three of you get together and and you care for each other. You demonstrate that you love one another by listening to each other and engaging with one another. And like, we all have to do that more. Like, that's the secret. Start a book club, join a walking club or a running club, or anything that brings you with people. Go play pickleball. It doesn't matter what the thing is, as long as you're engaging with people.
Or if you're Dr. Rogers, join a yacht club.
or if you're an aspiring writer or stand-up comedian, go to an open mic.
I know,
right?
I'm
That's right.
doing that. Right, exactly.
That's right. All of it. Put yourself out there. And because the thing is that as awkward as you feel about doing anything, like, that experience that you're having of feeling awkward is actually replicated around the room. So you can be the one to make someone else feel less awkward.
Absolutely. Because you remember back in the day, you would be able to go out and have clubs, play football or sports or whatever, engaging in kid activities. But now everything has changed into competitive type leagues where you have to pay, it's competition. So having fun is really not the thing anymore. And with, like what Dr. Brooks was talking about, the digital age, people go now to TikTok, people are on games, and all of that socialization that used to be the main focus of what we had is now taken away and replaced by that, but no real intentional conversations about getting back to it. So until we become intentional about making those efforts change, they don't change.
Yeah.
But technology has shown that there are pockets of people around the country that still try to do that, try to get kids involved. And I just want to shout out to all of those organizations that bring kids together and still try to focus on mentorship and things of that nature, because it's so important that we have to continue that.
Well, maybe that's what there needs to be, is maybe a merge between today's society and education. If it's, we need more educational influencers on TikTok.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We need people like that instead of you unboxing the latest whatever. It should be this week's lesson plan.
Right.
And this is what we got, and it's going to be way more exciting than the volcano that I did in 6th grade, right? And so
I remember that.
it's whenever it is that gets you,
Or the
right?
mission, right?
Paul, I think you just gave an early announcement of our next show.
There you go.
Hey, the other thing too, though, Dan, and maybe you can comment on this too, is just, I think, what we're seeing too is a tremendous amount of polarization and the siloing as it relates to like the social media feeds, because the algorithms are set in a way to kind of give you more of the extreme to the left or to the right. We're moving away from the center. And so we're seeing today a lot more of this divide. It seems as though, it has a lot to do with the social media feeds, right? And those algorithms.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, it also, there's something about it that I think goes deeper, in that our political parties and the political movements have been captured by the extremes. And those extremes kind of give you a sense of purpose. Participating in politics at that level gives you, it feeds your need for an identity. It feeds your need to belong to something that feels bigger than yourself. And it gives you a reason to be outraged. And outrage is a really powerful emotion. And, it's being harnessed by the left and the right, who kind of to drive what they believe, what people believe is the right thing to do. But it feeds into this politics of demonization and this politics of purity. You've demonized the other side, and your side is pure, and anybody who doesn't fully believe what you believe isn't worthy of being a part of the group. And that creates a lot of, I think, political, what I've come to think of as political homelessness.
Yeah, I like that.
Large groups of people.
I like that one.
There's not, there's a bunch of folks, I consider myself among them, that sort of are really interested in civics and politics and ideas and policies, but like neither side feels like it really adequately represents the spirit of engagement and the spirit of compromise and the spirit of a positive vision for the future that is something we want, that could really propel us forward as a community and as a nation. And, to bring this back a little bit to what we started out talking about, like a belief that public education is something worth investing in and investing massively in. right? Like that's the kind of thing I could get behind, but you don't hear any of that happening and that's not what we're talking about. The parties are really interested in talking about other things that matter to a vanishingly small number of people, but seem to dominate the headlines.
Yeah. And I want to ask Dr. Rogers too, because we're kind of talking about also as well is, some of this stuff, a lot of times our schools are sort of a microcosm for what's going on in greater society. So Dr. Rogers, being a district director, you've been a site leader, of course, as well. You've been in the classroom, and we'll open this up to anybody too. Are you seeing some of this spill over into the schools, board meetings, things like that?
Absolutely. COVID has taught us that we've taken human connections for granted because when we couldn't talk to people, when we weren't able to come outside, people were losing their minds, right? And our young people, were not able to have those social interactions, and all they had was the video games, all they had was the tools inside. And then when they came back to school, you saw it firsthand that a lot of our younger kids, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, things of that nature, they did not know how to interact with each other.
Well, even the older ones, back to basics with them, right?
Absolutely. So that people regressed, right? People regressed. And then I think once you regress, without having intentionality of having that conversation to regain or to go back, or like I think you mentioned it earlier, having a intersectional conversation with older generation, newer generation, and address the issue. Hey, how do we get back to human connections and having those normal conversations, or understand what's the new norm so we can actually get along with people and actually have conversations? How do we do that? And I think that's important that we do that, have that conversation.
I agree. I think it is. I think all of society during the pandemic taught us a lot of things, right? It taught us that we're only so many months away from, wow, okay, now back to basics. So, I think it's bridging that gap. And I'm not sure. I think it's the young and the old. It's the technical savvy and the non-technical savvy. And I don't know. I think there's more than one answer that does this. And so, it's pretty complicated.
Dan, I wanted to ask you too, do you think are we at one of those moments where there's the Nation at Risk report that came out. Are we sort of at that stage or in that sort of era where maybe we need another sort of review of education in America and maybe another Nation at Risk sort of report to see how we're doing, especially as it relates to not just, again, what we're talking about here regarding, interpersonal skills and how we treat each other, and also some of the stuff happening in schools regarding speech and things like that, but also even beyond that with educators and how we appreciate them and salaries and those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think we do need a fundamental system-wide, nationwide reassessment. And now's actually a really good time because there's some demographic realities that school districts are facing that are forcing some really challenging and tough choices. You guys know this, most major school districts, most urban school districts, and rural school districts are facing this demographic drop-off, student enrollment declines, which means that they've, a place like Cleveland, Ohio, which was originally built for a population of 50 to 60,000 students, now has somewhere around maybe 30,000 or 25,000. So they're doing a lot of consolidations right now, but some of the schools that they're closing for the last decade have been graduating maybe like the high schools that used to be comprehensive high schools with thousands of children. They're graduating fewer than 50 kids a year.
Yeah. Dan, hey,
right?
Maybe we could talk later off air. We are working on something regarding that too. That's going to come out in the fall. And we're excited about that, but we're already, we're kind of doing some work on that to try to help address, that crisis regarding rural education and schools. And
but you're right. I mean, like if we're making these big decisions right now, we ought to be actually thinking about the whole system, right? It's a good time to be really addressing the whole thing and getting back to core values and the philosophies behind why we do public education and what public education is for. And if we can agree on why we do it and what it's for, then what do we want teachers, what kind of teachers should be there? And what do we actually want from a teacher? And which teachers are best prepared to deliver?
How could we lose that many schools, yet we have that many students? Are they all either dropping out or homeschooled, or what's going on?
So a lot of it, and we're going to kind of share, more again around end of summer, early fall, but a lot of what we see is there's declining enrollment because of, a lot of students moving out of the rural communities, going to more urban areas, declining enrollment due to competition from charter schools, things like that. Online school is more accessible today. But there's a whole host of factors too.
Not having as many kids anymore also.
Declining birth rate. That is a big thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Binging Netflix. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. We're sort of in a reverse of the sort of baby boom generation. So, Hey, listen, gentlemen, it has been fabulous tonight having you on. We got 5 minutes left, and this is that part of the show. It goes by quick. It goes by quick, right? We say this every night.
Interrupts.
Yeah, but we do want to give you an opportunity to do a final word segment, and we give everybody an opportunity on the show to say a final closing message with our guests, with our viewers, and if you have something else that you'd like to share too regarding your book or regarding something else coming out or comedy, please feel free to do that. I think we'll start over here with Paul. We'll go around the room. We'll go Paul, then we'll go Dr. Rogers, and then we'll finish with you, Dan. Okay. Sound good? Yeah. All right, sure.
I just want to say, I think everybody has an opportunity to go out there and make positive change in their lives and the people that they are around every day. It could be something as simple as a smile. It could be a joke. Whatever it is, pay it forward. I think there's a lot of people in society that really need that extra little oomph. And so give them love and give them heck and keep standing up and doing what you believe in.
Absolutely.
So,
well, Paul, thank you for making us laugh tonight. It's been fun. Dr. Rogers?
Just continuing with the conversation, regarding schools, for example, we used to have, or we still do have National Night Out, right? And we should start doing some backwards mapping. If we want to have more socialization, okay, well, let's see, what do we need to do more of to get there? We have National Night Out once a year. We should make it more frequently so people get out, because when you have those nights, people are outside, people are barbecuing, people are getting together and socializing. You're visiting neighborhoods that you don't know. It's that interactive activity that goes on that gets people to talk and interact and being together. And if we did more of those and start waiting for systems to say we should do this and just start implementing these type of things, go to your block and say, hey, let's have a neighbor night out type of thing and start initiating those things. So I want to know my neighbors, right? So like you were just speaking about it, say, hey, have a smile, learn how to engage with someone. And it doesn't cost anything to be kind. It doesn't cost anything to be nice to people. And if we can just reverse all of this negative energy that we're putting out there and start just getting together with folks and fellowshipping in ways to engage conversation, to elicit people to want to be social and be kind to others. That's modeling for our younger generation also. So I think that if we all just take a day and just say, I'm going to commit to this, and this being interacting with someone, I think we'll start seeing that trend. But we're waiting for somebody to do it, but we can just do it ourselves.
Wow, Dr. Rogers, well said.
My last one. I had
last
to give it.
one for the season.
That's right. Hey. Doc, you are the leader you're waiting for. Exactly.
Yes, you are the leader you're waiting for. Exactly.
Dan, final word message?
I 100% agree with Paul and with Doc. I want to say too, though, that I believe, just to come back to teachers and schools and all of that, when you take a step back and think about schools and what they accomplish and how all of us in the community basically are putting money into a bucket and for a common good, for a public good. And the school system takes those resources and turns it into a curated and elevated and graduated experience that takes kids from age 4 to 18 and takes them, and what you get at the end is you get a citizen, you get a neighbor, you get somebody who's going to become a parent, somebody who's going to become an employee and then a manager and then a boss. And you get all of that for just like 10 grand a year. It's a miracle. And the teachers who are doing that work on the front line, they're miracle workers. And so just to kind of bring it back, like, this is for you guys who are on the front lines, who are doing that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Well said.
Nice.
Hey, Dan, if you're running for mayor, you have my vote.
I know you got mine too. I'm coming to Cleveland. No, I'm not. I'm a New Yorker.
And I know we're not going to forget you, Jeremy. What's your final word, sir?
Oh, wow. Hey, listen, my final word is just that I appreciate everybody on the show tonight. And, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about Teacher Appreciation Week and the morale of education and some of the data and the statistics that show some of the realities and the struggles in our schools.
Right.
And we talked about some really important items considering, that dichotomy that, are we really showing appreciation for our teachers when we look at how we value education? And so, gentlemen, a lot of really, really interesting stuff tonight. What a discussion. I could keep going. I wish we didn't have to wrap it up and it wasn't just an hour. But one other thing, too, I got to mention, they're reminding me in the control room to say this. So thank you for that. But we started this show 2 years ago in celebration of, Teacher Appreciation Week. Our goal, the idea was to bring innovative ideas, to help impact students in classrooms throughout the world. And we've been able to do, hopefully that. And we couldn't be here, though. We wouldn't be here without our viewers. And so we want to thank you as well. What a conversation tonight, gentlemen.
Hey, can I say one last thing too?
Yes, please.
Just kind of a plug that if anybody wants more information or resources about bringing increased teacher pay to your community or to your state, you need to check out the Teacher Salary Project. It's pretty impressive.
Thank you. Yeah. And then also, real quick, we should have done this real fast. But if people want to, follow your organization, Dan, how can they do that and learn more?
We are at cityclub.org on the internet, and you can find me there. You can find my contact information there, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. And
the book and the movie, can people still find that? Of course they can,
those are
right?
Still out there. Every now and then I get a royalty check for like $3. So yeah, somebody's buying it.
I know how that feels.
And right now they can see the movie free.
And you can see the movie for free. It's like on one of the streamers for sure. But nice. Yeah, American Teachers, the movie. The book is Teachers Have It Easy, The Big Sacrifices and Small Salaries of America's Teachers.
Nice.
And it's amazing to me how relevant this continues to be. But thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to be in conversation with all of you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then Dr. Rogers, real quick, how about your book? How can people follow you as well?
Again, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Dr._Kofi Rogers on LinkedIn. My book, Change the Narrative, Don't Let the Narrative Change You. Coming out with my children's book, had a little snafu, but it's coming out real soon this summer. Make sure I give you more information about it. But again, it's been my pleasure for us to be able to come into your home for an hour for the whole year. So thank you so much.
And then over here, Paul.
Everything I do is just like my name right below me, Paul Brumbaugh, on all social media. Plus, check out everything we do at Edge Studios Online at Edge Studios Online. And don't forget to unplug and disconnect once in a while, right?
Definitely.
So there you go.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, thank you again. And then for our educators watching tonight, we appreciate you, whether you're in a classroom, a district office, a counseling office, speech pathologist, whoever you are out there, you're impacting kids. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
And thank you for supporting students. Your work really does matter. We mean that. And before we go tonight, again, this officially marks the final live episode of the season for the Weekly Recess. But don't worry. We have lots of episodes still coming out. We have another episode, a PE episode coming out hopefully this week or next week. We've got more. We have an episode coming out with a specialist from the Bureau of Department of Narcotics and Firearms, and he's done a fabulous job, and he's going to be doing great on our show. And sorry, they're talking to me in the control room. We have one on English too. That's going to be fun on grammar. We actually have an episode coming out on grammar.
Nice.
It's going to be good too.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I can't wait for you guys to see it. And then again in August we return. So stay tuned. We're going to have a whole brand new season here at Brooks Broadcasting Studio 24. But we also want to thank our entire production team here at Brooks Broadcasting Studio 24. Aviette Brooks, Lynette Hines, Michael Hines, Robert Kluver, RG. We want to thank Ryan. We want to thank Tony G, Luke Medina, our Director of Brand Partnerships, and all our guests and supporters. Special shout out to my mom, Sherry.
Yes.
She
Yes,
is
Mom.
big time in the comments. My grandmother, Ruth Ann.
Hi, Grandma.
Dad, Jerry. Hey,
I had a Grandma Ruth too.
Wait, Jeremy. This weekend, what's going on this weekend?
Okay. I have my commencement for my doctorate degree. Yes,
All
University of
right.
the Pacific. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to be in the house watching you and celebrating with you.
Yeah. And Mother's Day is coming up this weekend too.
Oh, happy
so.
Oh, my God. Yes.
Happy
Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. Yes, happy Mother's Day to you. I apologize. Happy Mother's Day to you.
But also, hey, I got to give a shout out to Dr. Rob Martinez.
Rob.
He's a recently retired superintendent, and he's a big supporter of our show. So, Dr. Rob, we want to thank you too for all your support. To our viewers tonight around the world, continue to support the show. Thank you so much. Hey, we went over by 6 minutes. That's okay. It's our last show. But until then, our communities, our schools, please be safe. Take care of one another. And thank you. We'll see you next season on the Education Talk Show.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Outstanding.